Urban legends are often dismissed as mere stories, twisted whispers passed from one generation to the next, told in hushed tones at sleepovers or around campfires. But what if some of these terrifying tales are rooted in truth? Across cultures, legends have emerged that mirror real-life disappearances, unsolved crimes, and unexplainable phenomena, causing even the most skeptical to second-guess what's fiction and what could actually lurk in the dark corners of our world. The terrifying part? Some of these stories have been investigated by police, reported in newspapers, or eerily mirrored by real events. In this video, we're diving deep into 10 urban legends that aren't just frightening. They carry enough eerie detail and circumstantial evidence to suggest they may be more than just folklore. From haunted highways with a body count to shadowy figures spotted by thousands, these stories continue to resurface again and again. Some have even triggered full-blown investigations, with authorities unable to fully explain what happened. The line between fiction and fact is thinner than we'd like to believe. And that's what makes these legends so haunting. We're not just here to scare you. We're here to peel back the layers and explore the strange coincidences, eyewitness accounts, and chilling truths that suggest these legends might be disturbingly real. So grab a light, double-check your locks, and let's explore the top 10 scariest urban legends that might actually be real. But be warned, once you know the stories behind them, you might never sleep the same way again. The Blackeyed Children. Black-eyed children are described as pale-skinned, emotionless kids who knock on your door late at night, asking to come inside. Witnesses across the US, UK, and Canada have described their terrifying encounters with these mysterious children, all of whom have entirely black eyes, no whites, no irises. The phenomenon exploded online in the late 1990s, but reports go back decades earlier. These encounters often begin with the children asking for help, but something about their presence feels deeply wrong to witnesses. What makes this urban legend especially creepy is how consistent the stories are, even when reported by people who've never heard of the legend before. Law enforcement and researchers have investigated several cases, but no concrete explanations have ever been found. Some believe these children may be extraterrestrials or demonic entities, while others suggest they are hallucinations triggered by sleep paralysis or extreme fear. Yet no other hallucination has shown such uncanny uniformity across cultures and decades. The legend gained significant traction after a 1998 story by journalist Brian Bethel, who detailed a personal encounter with two black-eyed boys. Since then, forums and Reddit threads have been flooded with similar stories, people hearing unexplained knocking, voices asking for entry, and an overwhelming sense of dread when the children appear. What's truly bizarre is that most witnesses describe a sudden loss of memory or time distortion after the encounter, suggesting something more than simple fright. Despite their popularity in paranormal circles, no hoaxes or pranks have ever been proven. Experts on urban myths admit that while the phenomenon might be explainable, the sheer volume and consistency of these reports make this legend one of the most unsettling on record. Whether they are aliens, demons, or something entirely unknown, the black-eyed children might not just be figments of our imagination. They could be real visitors in the night. The Mothman in 1966, the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became ground zero for one of the most iconic and terrifying legends in American folklore. The Mothman, described as a humanoid figure with massive wings and glowing red eyes, the Mothman was first spotted by two young couples driving through a remote area near an abandoned munitions plant. What followed was over a year of strange sightings, bizarre lights in the sky, and widespread paranoia. Eyewitnesses claimed the creature could fly at incredible speeds and would follow cars, keeping pace even at high velocity. But what really catapulted the Mothman legend into chilling territory was its apparent connection to tragedy. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush-hour traffic, killing 46 people. Many locals believed the Mothman's sightings were a warning of the impending disaster, and since then, a theory has emerged suggesting this creature appears before catastrophic events. Similar sightings have been reported near other disasters, including Chernobyl, the Fukushima meltdown, and even before 9/11. What makes the Mothman story especially unsettling is the volume and credibility of the witnesses. These weren't just isolated reports by fringe believers. Police officers, respected townsfolk, and even journalists reported encounters. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and local investigators could not explain the flurry of paranormal activity. While some skeptics chalk the sightings up to a misidentified bird species like the sandhill crane, others believe this entity may be a harbinger of doom. Books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood film have since explored the legend. But no one has been able to prove or disprove the Mothman's existence. Whether it's an undiscovered creature, a supernatural being, or a collective hallucination born from anxiety, the Mothman continues to haunt the edges of our understanding. And the question remains, if you saw glowing red eyes staring at you in the dark, would you live to tell the tale? The Bunnyman, it sounds almost cartoonish at first. A man in a bunny costume wielding an axe and terrorizing people near a Virginia bridge. But the legend of the Bunnyman is based on a series of very real and very disturbing events. In 1970, multiple reports emerged of a man dressed in a rabbit costume threatening people with a hatchet near Fairfax County. 2 police reports were officially filed, both describing a man yelling at trespassers and hurling an axe at a car. The story quickly spiraled into legend. Locals began telling tales of an escaped asylum patient who found refuge near the now infamous Colchester overpass, dubbed Bunnyman Bridge. According to urban myth, this man would capture rabbits, eat them raw, and hang their skins from trees. Eventually, the legend claimed he moved on to people, particularly teens daring each other to visit the bridge at night. Over the years, many claimed to see a figure lurking near the bridge, and some say their car engines would suddenly die without explanation. Despite how outlandish the story seems, the core incidents really did happen. The Fairfax County Police Department still receives inquiries about the Bunnyman every Halloween, and the bridge has become a hotspot for urban legend tourism. To this day, no one ever identified the man behind the initial 1970 attacks. Strangely enough, similar legends about axe-wielding figures in costumes have emerged in other states, suggesting a deeper psychological resonance. What keeps the Bunnyman story alive isn't just the bizarre nature of the costume. It's the eerie possibility that someone used it as a disguise to carry out real attacks. Whether he was a disturbed individual hiding in plain sight or something more sinister, the Bunnyman stands as a reminder that some legends don't need the supernatural to be terrifying. They just need the right amount of mystery and a dash of blood-stained truth. The elevator game. Originating from South Korea, the elevator game is a ritual said to transport players to another dimension, using nothing but a building elevator and a precise sequence of floor selections. Participants must be alone, press floors in a specific order, typically involving 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5, and if done correctly, a woman is said to enter on the 5th floor. This woman must never be spoken to or looked at. If the ritual is successful, pressing the 1st floor won't bring the elevator back to the lobby, but to a dark, alternate world where you're completely alone. The environment reportedly resembles your own, but all technology fails, and you may feel an overwhelming sense of dread. The urban legend gained massive traction online after the suspicious death of Elisa Lam in 2013. Lam was staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, a building already steeped in dark history, when she was caught on surveillance acting strangely in an elevator. She pressed multiple buttons in a sequence, looked like she was hiding from someone, and gestured oddly as if talking to an unseen presence. Days later, her body was found in the hotel's water tank under mysterious circumstances. No one could explain how she accessed the tank or why she was behaving that way. Her behavior in the elevator eerily resembled the elevator game's instructions. While the police ruled her death accidental due to bipolar disorder, conspiracy theories exploded online, with many suggesting she had unknowingly played the elevator game. Some even pointed to older legends from East Asia about spiritual dimensions accessible through specific rituals. Although skeptics argue the story is merely internet-fueled creepypasta, numerous people have posted their own disturbing experiences attempting the game, reporting hallucinations, electrical interference, and even memory lapses. Whether it's an elaborate psychological trick or something darker, the elevator game taps into a primal fear. The idea that we can accidentally cross a boundary not meant for humans. And once you're there, you might not find your way back. With no official explanation for Elisa Lam's bizarre final moments, the elevator game remains one of the most unsettling legends with a real-world body count to its name. Slender Man began as a fictional character created for a Photoshop contest on the Something Awful forums in 2009. Tall, faceless, and wearing a black suit, he quickly evolved into a full-fledged urban legend. The internet embraced him, generating countless stories, games, and videos that depicted him as a supernatural figure who stalks and abducts children. But what makes Slender Man so disturbing is that despite being born in fiction, he somehow took on a life of his own in reality. In 2014, two 12-year-old girls in Waukesha, Wisconsin, stabbed their friend 19 times in the woods, later telling police they did it to appease Slender Man. They believed harming their friend would make them worthy of being his proxies and grant them access to his mansion in the forest. The victim survived, but the attack stunned the world. It revealed just how deep the myth had penetrated young minds and blurred the line between fiction and belief. Mental health issues were a factor, but it was the Slender Man mythos that provided the structure for the crime. Psychologists later debated how a fictional internet creation could spark real-world violence. Experts believe that Slender Man may have acted like a modern myth, its collaborative, open-source nature making it more personal and immersive. The character's ambiguous rules, eerie imagery, and sense of being constantly watched played perfectly into the minds of those already vulnerable. His facelessness allowed people to project their own fears onto him, making him even more potent and terrifying. What started as a joke became one of the most infamous urban legends of the 21st century, proving that a myth doesn't have to be ancient or culturally embedded to be powerful. Slender Man didn't emerge from old books or oral tradition. He was born from pixels and imagination, yet somehow that made him real enough to cause tragedy, suggesting that belief, not origin, is what gives legends their terrifying power. The Vanishing Hitchhiker. One of the oldest and most widespread urban legends, the Vanishing Hitchhiker story has appeared in countless cultures across the globe. The tale typically involves a driver picking up a quiet, mysterious hitchhiker, often a young woman, only to have the passenger disappear from the back seat without a trace. Later, when the driver investigates, they're told the person they picked up died years earlier on that exact stretch of road. What makes this legend persist is the sheer number of eerily similar reports dating back to the early 20th century, long before it became a popular folklore motif. In some versions, the hitchhiker asks to be taken to a specific address, only for the driver to discover the passenger vanished before reaching the destination. The home's occupant, usually a grieving parent or spouse, confirms that the described person died in a tragic accident long ago. In other variants, the ghostly hitchhiker leaves behind an item of clothing, or the driver later finds it on the passenger seat, solid evidence of a seemingly impossible encounter. Skeptics argue it's just a modern ghost story, but the number of first-hand accounts suggests something more persistent. One particularly well-documented case occurred in Chicago, involving a ghost known as Resurrection Mary. Dozens of people over the decades have claimed to pick up a blonde woman in a white dress near Resurrection Cemetery, only for her to vanish once they passed the cemetery gates. In 1973, a cab driver even filed a police report, convinced he'd just given a ride to a spirit. Historical records back the legend, linking it to a girl killed in a 1930s car accident on that same road. The cemetery even receives regular visits from curious tourists and paranormal investigators. What keeps this legend especially haunting is its emotional impact. Unlike many terrifying tales, the Vanishing Hitchhiker doesn't involve malevolent spirits or violence. It's about loss, unresolved tragedy, and brief moments where the past seems to break through the veil of reality. Whether it's a ghost reliving its final ride, or a projection of our collective fear of death, the legend reminds us that sometimes the most chilling experiences are those that seem almost gentle, but impossibly real. The Smiling Man. A deeply unsettling urban legend known as the Smiling Man originated from a 2012 Reddit post, where a user detailed a late-night encounter with a stranger whose eerie smile and unnatural behavior suggested something deeply wrong. The poster described walking down a dim street when he noticed a tall man in a suit, dancing erratically under a streetlight. The man then stopped and stared directly at him, his smile widening unnaturally. Without saying a word, the figure began walking toward him, never blinking, never changing expression. The user escaped, but the image has haunted readers ever since. What makes this legend terrifying isn't gore or violence. It's the psychological horror of unpredictability. Numerous commenters claimed similar experiences. Strange individuals with unnerving grins who seem to appear out of nowhere, often at night, exuding a sense of menace without making a sound. While skeptics believe these are just creepy encounters with mentally unstable individuals, the consistency and emotional impact of these stories suggests something more archetypal. The Smiling Man represents our fear of being watched, followed, and targeted for no reason at all. What's chilling is that Smiling Man sightings aren't confined to online forums. In Brazil, a similar figure called Homem do Sorriso has long been part of urban folklore. In Japan, the myth of Kuchisake Onna, a woman with a grotesque smile carved into her face, also taps into this deep-rooted discomfort. These international parallels hint that the smiling stranger isn't just an internet invention, but an embodiment of a universal fear, the predator that wears joy like a mask. The Smiling Man's legend continues to evolve in online horror communities and short films, further blurring the line between myth and personal trauma. While there's no proof of a single supernatural entity, the recurring image of a grinning figure approaching in silence leaves a lasting imprint. Whether born from shared paranoia or something far more sinister, the Smiling Man reminds us that not all evil looks angry. Some of it smiles. Cropsey. For decades, children in Staten Island, New York, were warned about Cropsey, a monstrous figure said to live in the abandoned Willowbrook State School, emerging at night to snatch kids off the streets. He was described as a deranged escapee, wielding a hook or axe, lurking in the shadows of the ruins. For many, Cropsey was just a local boogeyman, the kind of tale told to keep kids from wandering too far. But then the legends started aligning with reality in horrifying ways. In the 1970s and 1980s, multiple children began disappearing from Staten Island. The community was shocked when authorities arrested Andre Rand, a former Willowbrook employee who was living in tunnels beneath the abandoned facility. He was convicted for kidnapping and suspected in several other child disappearances. The real-life circumstances of Rand's crimes bore an eerie resemblance to the Cropsey legend, leading many to wonder, had the myth predicted a real-life monster, or had the myth formed because of him? Documentarians explored this chilling overlap in the film Cropsey, 2009, revealing how deeply entwined Rand's crimes were with the local legend. He wasn't just a criminal. He became the embodiment of a myth, especially after reports emerged that he had ties to satanic cults and local institutions turned blind eyes to the horrors beneath Willowbrook. The building itself, once exposed for patient abuse and negligence, became a symbol of institutional failure and unspeakable suffering. The Cropsey case reveals the most terrifying aspect of urban legends. Sometimes they're not made up. Sometimes they're real people whose darkness is so profound it warps reality around them. Whether the legend gave birth to the criminal or the criminal reinforced the legend, Cropsey is proof that sometimes the monster under the bed is all too human. The Devil's Chair. In many American cemeteries, you might come across what's called a mourning chair, a stone seat installed near graves to allow visitors to sit in quiet reflection. But in places like Cassadaga, Florida, one chair has developed a darker reputation. Known as the Devil's Chair, legend says if you sit in it at midnight, the devil himself will whisper in your ear. Or worse, leave behind a deal you never intended to accept. Some say cans of beer left on the chair are found empty the next morning, even if sealed, as if something truly supernatural had taken a drink. Local folklore claims the chair was built in the late 1800s and quickly became associated with strange events. Visitors report hearing voices, feeling a sudden drop in temperature, or experiencing vivid nightmares after sitting in it. Paranormal investigators have even visited the site and recorded unexplained audio and electromagnetic activity. Some skeptics believe it's all suggestion and group hysteria, but many visitors leave visibly shaken, refusing to return. What elevates the legend from spooky story to credible mystery is the volume of unrelated visitors who experience similar sensations. A Florida newspaper once interviewed dozens of locals who grew up hearing about the chair, and several adults confessed they never dared sit on it, even as teens looking for a thrill. For many, the risk simply isn't worth it. After all, what if the legend is true? What if sitting down invites something in? The Devil's Chair is more than a creepy cemetery prop. It's a cultural artifact of fear. It asks the question, how much are we willing to test our disbelief? Whether it's an ancient spirit, a trick of the mind, or something worse, the chair sits silently, waiting. And those who dare take a seat rarely forget what follows. The Shadow People. Shadow people are perhaps the most universally experienced paranormal entities. Seen at the edge of vision or during sleep paralysis, they appear as dark, humanoid shapes, featureless, silent, and deeply unnerving. Unlike ghosts, they seem to lack any human characteristics. Witnesses across the globe describe them moving quickly, often fleeing when noticed. But some encounters are far more sinister. Victims report feelings of overwhelming dread, suffocation, and in some cases, waking up with scratches or bruises they can't explain. What's especially compelling is how widespread the phenomenon is. Shadow people have been documented for centuries under different names. Jinn in Middle Eastern lore, Hat Man in Western accounts, and similar entities in South American and African traditions. Sleep specialists have tried to explain them as hallucinations linked to sleep paralysis. But even scientists admit they don't fully understand why so many people report nearly identical figures. The experiences are often described as more vivid and terrifying than typical dreams or nightmares. Perhaps most unsettling is the Hat Man, a recurring version of the shadow figure who wears a wide-brimmed hat and trench coat. Thousands have reported seeing this figure during episodes of sleep paralysis. Always looming, always watching. Some believe he is a demon or interdimensional being feeding on fear. Others suggest the Hat Man is a psychic projection, an archetype conjured by collective trauma or suppressed memory. But no theory fully explains why so many unrelated people see the same thing. Whether they're a trick of the brain or something truly supernatural, shadow people remain one of the most chilling and consistent phenomena in paranormal lore. They don't chase you or scream. They just stand there and watch. And when they disappear, you're left with a single terrifying question. Were you dreaming? Or did something real visit you in the night? Urban legends aren't just scary stories told to entertain. They often reflect real fears, strange coincidences, and in some cases, chilling truths. As we've seen in these 10 cases, some legends have roots so deep and details so consistent that they can't be entirely dismissed. Whether fueled by human psychology, tragic events, or phenomena we don't yet understand, these stories cling to the edges of our reality and refuse to let go. And when fact begins to mirror fiction, we're forced to ask ourselves, what if the stories are trying to warn us? Each legend carries a distinct unease, a discomfort that grows not from what we know, but from what we can't quite explain. That feeling when something brushes past you in the dark, or when you hear your name whispered but no one's there. These sensations are the heartbeat of urban legends. They linger because they play with boundaries, between past and present, between sanity and delusion, between this world and something darker. So next time you hear footsteps behind you in an empty hallway, or spot a figure from the corner of your eye, remember the legends. They might just be stories, or they might be echoes of something very real, still walking among us. Because in the end, the most frightening part of urban legends isn't that they might be fake. It's that some of them just might be true.